Descent into Darkness, a Call of Cthulhu campaign.
Hello and welcome back to Deathwatch's Call of Cthulhu campaign, Descent into Darkness, Season 4. This is Episode 14, and I am Keeper Travis. We now return to the journey to Irem. It is the morning of March 3rd as the first light breaks over the hunkered shapes of dozens of camels and the now familiar layout of the expedition camp. A weary-looking Charles Stanton is already at work looking at his maps and the lay of the land ahead. Ibrahim Tafari and his wife Adimu stand well back, perhaps sensing his mood. But before we get back to it, let's get an introduction from our investigators.
I'm Brandon. I'll be playing Bartholomew Wentworth, and I am engaged in an expedition to find the pillars of lost cities.
I'm Chris. I'm playing Charles Stanton, the navigator for this expedition.
And I'm John, playing Joseph Thompson, also the navigator for this expedition, but not really.
It's good to have you back.
Was I heat stressed last time?
No, you were just kind of in the background looking
As
for
always hovering around corners.
You had those cots that Stanton had brought. You fashioned one into like a lawn chair thing, and you made cocktails and sat in the lawn chair.
Oh no!
I assume that's
wonder
what you
I'm
do
getting
at those
shot at.
company meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So Francesco is tending his pot in a low fire, getting some water to boil for you as Mr. Wentworth and Mr. Thompson walk up to join the beleaguered Mr. Stanton. Let's do a little flashback scene for you here, Mr. Wentworth. This was over the few days that Mr. Thompson's soul was missing, although when you look at his pick, did he ever have a soul?
No.
This is like you guys share a relatively close sleeping area. Most of the time you've been able to just sleep under the stars because the weather's not so bad, but give me a listen roll.
Okay. Did it roll?
Yep, 30 versus 30. Got what you needed.
Success.
So you had heard him in his sleep speaking, saying something, mumbled words, and because you had nothing else to do, you just, pricked your ear up and you heard him speaking what you thought was German at first, but then clearly he says some not German words, you think, somnum manducari procreari in his sleep, and then he'll mumble something else and go back to sleep.
Okay.
So that's your little flashback scene, and he seems sort of checked out the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
You had attributed that to his reaction to seeing artillery fire on your way up to Sana'a, as you have seen many men, pick up a nervous tick when they hear loud sounds again, which he had reacted in a way he wasn't aware of to those distant booms, like a sort of clench. Anyhow, you guys walk up to the beleaguered Mr. Stanton. Arbogast lurks like a shadow in the background, keeping a watchful eye on you, Mr. Wentworth, like a mother hen. Although he is rubbing at his right leg, where some pain, new or old, seems to be bothering him this morning. Any fool casting their gaze skyward can see that there will be rain today. It's only a matter of time. To complete the morning meeting comes Nigel Stedford, for all the world looking like an English gentleman, which he is, on a leisurely stroll through the English countryside, where he is not. To the more trained eye, one can see that he moves with a well-practiced economy of motion. Mr. Stanton, your eyes swim with a seething hatred for the man's apparent pep, if you want.
Oh, no. I think my eyes swim with a seething hatred for most things that are living on this morning.
Now, Mr. Stanton, the trouble for today, aside from your distinct lack of quality sleep and the ache in your lower back, is that if it does rain, all those wadis, which, by the way, is just a name for a dry riverbed that fills with water when there is water. and low areas will prove a more difficult passage, if not become outright impassable. Also, this is an aside, it was known to soldiers and men who needed to function at a higher level that there were cocaine pills, usually cocaine and caffeine mixed together. I don't know if that's something you would have to help alleviate fatigue for your expedition members or not, but soldiers used it a lot in the Great War. Like the brand name for the British one was Forced March, I think.
I like the name of that. Yeah, I think Stanton would have standard, or as close to standard military loadouts for his men as possible. So I think that they probably would. And they would probably be under strict orders that you only get the 10 once every... There's no, like, infinite refills on this stuff, so...
Well, it's an option to ignore a level of exhaustion with it, being more difficult to pay off later. So if that's something you want to do today, you may, or you can deal with it like a man would.
No, I think Stanton kind of has an ego about that type of stuff. He's not above relying on it, or using it, but it's the reliance on it that he would dislike. So no, he's going to tough this out, and the whole world will suffer for it.
All right, so let's figure out your navigate roll for the day. You have a bonus die with your navigator's help, should you choose to use it.
I do.
And one penalty die from exhaustion, and a penalty die due to the difficulty that the rain imposes.
Okay.
So this has a combined effect of...
making it a hard roll?
A hard roll, right?
All right. So normal, and then one penalty die?
No,
total?
just hard's the
just
difficulty.
Hard? So normal roll with hard?
Right. Okay.
Man, let's see. What is a hard on
push that
70? Well, no, it's...
Never mind. I saw it's regular. I thought you were hard on that
72 would be 36.
Yeah, that's kind of rough.
It's all right. You still make progress. It's just... Yeah. So you're not sure which is the better. There are several of these wadis that are empty that would make your treacherous travel down a little easier. Alternatively, you could stick to the highlands and make it more gradual drop in elevation, but at the cost of miles.
I think that's what Stanton will do, and he'll explain it to Mr. Wentworth that soon we're going to be in the middle of a deluge of some sort, and these wadis, and I'll point them out, will fill.
I see.
So, unless you feel like we're pressed for time, I'm going to take the slower route, the safer route.
Whatever you think is best.
Because
you've got my support.
What would happen? My heart would be forever burdened if something would have happened to Bowman.
All right, go ahead and make roll 5d4 for me.
13.
All right, so that's your progress for the day.
Lucky number.
Mm-hmm.
At gunpoint, I'll force everyone to march one more mile, so it's not 13. I'll point my gun at everybody.
Well, if ever we need to make up time, I'll pull out the forced march 10.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'll shake it.
All right, I'm good to go.
Cocaine and caffeine.
Mine has dried peyote in it.
Does that help?
No.
Is that more like a psychedelic?
I don't know if you can do that.
In fact, it would probably have more of a hindrance once the hallucinations kick in.
All right, so on the Arabian Peninsula map, I put a party token on there, which if you hover it over it, I think, hopefully you guys can see that, should see like your food and water consumption rate with the current amount of people you have. So it's 82.5 pounds of food per day and 165 liters of water. If you click the group report on that, it'll pop in what your current load of food and water is. Now, in the case of food, it's mostly distributed amongst every individual in case you picked up something big specific for Victor Andrade to make a meal for everybody. Okay, so we're going 13 miles.
So one thing I was going to ask, because I thought about it last week, is what is our arrangement? Like, do you have like advanced scouts up ahead, or are we just one big group moving through the land?
I don't know. I haven't put too much thought to it. I think probably not yet. I think for the most part, I'd probably just be doing map navigation, and then probably have like people maybe outrunning near us, but not like actually being advanced scouts.
Yeah, I mean, this is all like populated world still. We're not like
No, actually, it was pretty quick where you moved out of the irrigated sections outside Sana'a. Now you're just in rocky desert.
So it is, okay.
Yeah, you're not following a path. They had old trade routes here that you come across from time to time, the old caravan routes, but they dried up long ago, so they're broken and they're not reliable.
But I think Stanton would be more of the mind that he'd be worried if there were hostile peoples in the area about his men getting picked off, getting too far from the group. But once we get out into like the desert proper, and we're getting like within a day or so of Sana, is that the right? No, of the pillars of the city, is when he'd probably really start putting out scouts to kind of hopefully stumble across it quicker.
Okay.
You do have pretty good sight lines here too, since you have like the high ground going down, so you can see the land will flatten out at some point. There's a big valley you're heading towards. Half a moment while I subtract the cost of water and food here.
We almost had elite food.
Okay. All right. So, as I said, the main problem with this stretch from Sana'a to a village called Marib is the change from 8,000 feet above sea level to 3,500 feet. You're well aware of this from your dreaded time in the hotel in Cairo. Because of the path you took today is a particularly treacherous descent, although you think safer than the wadis, which could flood.
Mm-hmm.
As the morning wears on, the land already seems to be an inhospitable territory filled with imposing buttes and narrow paths. Every ravine that you avoid traveling in could very well fill with water once the rain breaks. You got to figure out firsthand how water behaves in this land since the terrain's so rocky. It flows down into something it can absorb in, and there's not like a lot of that. So salt brush and the occasional gnarled tree cling to the rocky earth. Curtis Cooper guides his camel up sort of by you, Mr. Stanton, but after getting a look at your face, decides better of it, and instead guides the camel next to you, Mr. Thompson. Now, Mr. Thompson, what has occurred over the last few days is you guys made it up to Sana'a. Mr. Wentworth went into the city and made arrangements with the king of Yemen and Imam Yahya to allow safe passage through your land. But in return, he showed up with about another 27 members to add to the expedition. That's a mix of soldiers and herdsmen and workers, porters, that sort of thing. So the size of your expedition it's doubled basically. And so when you're looking out at this train, this caravan of camels, it's like 75 camels amongst all the riding camels and those laden down with the goods that your group is carrying. So it's become quite a production. But anyhow, Mr. Curtis Cooper, he of the jug ears and the journalistic instinct, says, "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. Do you mind doing an interview? For the SEU archives?"
Yeah, I guess we could do that. So, do you want to do that when we stop, or I'll
think
look
I
up
can
at
manage
the sun and wipe my brow right now?
Right. Yeah, it's about 80. By the time you get to noon, it's about 82 today. The rain still hasn't broke quite yet, but it's definitely, you can feel the pressure of it. He says, "Well, if that's what you want to do, but I think I could manage on my camel here." And you see him try to get like a little notebook out, and he's sort of sitting odd on his camel.
Leaning.
And one of the things you have to guide your camel is called a camel stick. You can turn them one way or the other by putting it on either side of their head. So he's trying to juggle all that. And you see it would be wiser to wait for the midday break.
As eager as I'm sure you are, it might be better for you overall if we wait until you have somewhere stable to jot down notes. Last thing you want to do is do an interview and recall back to notes that you can't even read, or worse, you lose your notebook.
So he seems to be about to protest, but then he's taken with a fit of sneezing, and he's like, "Okay, all right, I'll find you when we stop."
That
So the
doesn't
morning-
mean that we can't. Yeah, just chat though. If
Well, I don't-
you're looking for something to do.
I don't want to miss any salient details. It's all got to go in the record. So I think it's best if we wait. I mean, I guess I'll still talk with you if you want, Mr. Thompson.
Nope, you had your chance. And all, however you make these things go faster.
Right, to get away from it. So the morning wears on into the early afternoon when you, Stanton, call for a break atop the flat part of a butte. And while you're settling down to take your lunch, each in your own places, you notice in a fallen dead tree, there's an old traveler's backpack, so you got whatever you're eating, whether it's biscuits and jam or whatever come out of your pack. Yeah, you just see it stuffed into a fallen tree right next to you, Mr. Stanton. Hey, you Yemeni worker, come fish this.
That's not too far off, probably. Yeah, I guess I'll stuff the rest of my biscuit or scone or whatever the heck it is into my mouth, some sort of ration bread.
Right.
And I'll pick up my Enfield and I'll start kind of walking over to check it out.
Yeah, so it has stuff in it. It doesn't appear to be, if you had to guess, you would think it was a British make, right? Or at least somewhere in the West. It doesn't look like the packs you've seen locals carrying around.
Military.
Yeah. Well, that would be a little off the mark, but very similar, right?
Okay.
You would guess it would be more of like a private enterprise that fashioned it in the style of military backpacks. But there's some clinking when you maybe touch the loop that you can grab at the top.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do I have like a bayonet or a knife type thing?
Yeah, you can fix a bayonet to your rifle.
Well, no, I'll just use the
Or your
bayonet.
knife.
Yeah, I'll lift it out of the tree with that and then see if I can flip open any of the bag and start rummaging around using that.
Yeah, you can see it's loaded with a few explorer type gears. So you see like a sextant in there and a little spyglass, a lantern, and a few other things, along with some folds of paper, which seems to be local maps, hand-drawn. But there's also another hand-drawn paper that just seems to be the layout of a building.
Okay. Yeah, I'll shake it. I guess I was already looking at those, so I won't keep the bag because chances are it's a nest of some sort of vile creature. Right. But I'll take everything else.
Yeah, and you are correct because when you're disturbing it, beetles are crawling forth. They were in there eating the bottom and whatever else was tasty to them.
All right, not as vile as I had thought.
Right.
Still.
Yeah, the maps don't seem much more useful than the ones you're already using, right?
Mm-hmm.
The building one seems to, well, you can give me a history roll or, yeah, we'll just stick with history.
Oh, okay. This is a 5. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, a penalty, right?
Yes, all your skill rolls have a penalty.
Except like rifles, I think.
So we'll just make it hard.
Okay. That's actually kind of close.
Yeah, you don't know. You would guess it's some sort of church building, and there's a name, Ramanan, the Merciful, scribed along it. But as to its wider meaning, you have no idea.
Oh, let's see. I think I'll call Francesco over if he isn't already by me.
Yeah, he was eating his chocolate ration.
Yeah, and I'll give him that, and I'll have him first go to let's say our good doctor Sala, and then if Sala doesn't know anything, to take it to our historian. What's his name? My doppelganger, I believe, right?
Yeah, Nigel.
Nigel. I almost said Nichols. And see if they have any idea what this could mean, boy. Get out of here.
Okay, while he runs off with the map to inquire after what it might be, we'll pop over to Mr. Wentworth. So as you've been traveling, your day started out with a soreness in your sinuses and the back of your throat. And you're like, well, I could be all the dust that's being kicked up by traveling. But just like every time somebody does that in real life when they have the beginnings of a cold, none of those things are enough to be like, no, this is what I think it is. And by the time you get to the break, you're pretty sure that you have picked something up in your journey through town.
It's syphilis.
From the noble one.
Right. And finally, it was
delayed onset syphilis.
Right. Yeah. And when you cast your eye across the camp, you can see some others, like specifically people that had gone into town with you.
Yeah.
Like Curtis Cooper. He's been sneezing a lot and rubbing his eyes.
Mm.
Let's see who else. My loyalty axis ended up being quite useful for the spread of a cold. And Bo Whiteman, he's maybe sounds a little bit like me right now. His nose all congested.
Yeah.
So he's complaining has a duck-like quality, a
nasally tone, yeah.
honkiness to it.
If this proves to be fatal, my last act will be to kill that man.
All right. So, Mr. Thompson, Curtis Cooper, comes and finds you out. You know, his eyes are all red and bleary, and he keeps rubbing his nose on his shirt sleeve during the course of this interview. But if you're open to it, he's like, "Is this a good time now, Mr. Thompson?"
Oh, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, you look terrible.
Oh, I think it's all this dust. I mean, look at it all. Can't take 2 steps without kicking up a cloud of it.
Are you
But I
taking
think-
your cocaine?
Am I supposed to be taking my cocaine?
I mean, that's what everybody else is doing, I'm assuming. You don't see them sneezing all over the place because of the dust, do you?
It builds a healthy immune system.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think any cocaine made it into my pack. Do you have any?
What kind of a man goes into the desert without his cocaine?
Well-
I don't know, do you want a luck roll to see if I have some? I mean, it's
Sure.
not something I plan to pack.
Maybe you just have your private Wheelin' and Dillon supply.
Yeah, so I'll dig into my pack and pull out.
What's the
Well-
brand name?
Yeah, I was just about to try and search something real quick.
It's like All Night or something like that is the name of it, and it
Yeah.
has like a person driving or like a car on the road at night. For the salesman, that is
Dr. Pink's The Closer. Pure cocaine powder for when the deal's gotta be done.
and for when you need to get to sleep, Dr. Pink's laudanum.
Right. So yeah, you got it. I suppose in your case,
Let's
it
just
would be-
make it like a Lloyd Manufacturing.
Mm.
Those, I mean, I don't think that a lot of them had crazy names.
Yeah.
No, it was like people probably wouldn't think of it any more than they would think it's buying brand name Tylenol or aspirin or something. Like
Yeah.
that, right? Are you an experienced enough businessman to know that it's better to crush those pills down and snort them, or or you just
No,
gotta have 'em
you just take them as
as prescribed?
prescribed. Yeah.
Look at that man's face, and you tell me, Travis, what you think.
He tried it, but it didn't come
Yeah.
anywhere to touching the
Thrill
hole in
of
his heart.
closing.
Right. So yeah, he washes that down with some water, and he's like, "Okay, Mr. Thompson. So I'm trying to get everybody's, thoughts as we're journeying along here. But for the record, let me get what I already got. You're Mr. Thompson,
Correct.
businessman. You reside in Boston,
Correct.
and you're a member of the SEU.
Correct.
And before we get into that, what occurs at the SEU meetings that brings you there? Do you like the flying cows or haunted houses,
Don't bring up the haunted houses.
secret
more-
societies?
More the fraternal order that you get out of it.
The camaraderie.
Yeah. Those, what did they have there? Some type of, like a, boys club or camp, right?
Right. Okay. So just in it for the brotherhood, the friendship, and
Yeah.
what drew you into joining this expedition?
Well, as I was in the war, I think that my experience there, along with coming back and jumping straight into a career, as I missed out on some of my freedom that I may have had, in my early 20s. So, as now that I'm successful and can, has decided to get back out into the world and maybe make up for some missed time.
I see.
Because if you look in my eyes, you can see
I've
no
missed
one,
a lot of time.
especially you, has a lot of time left.
What? Do you need a cocaine pill, Mr. Thompson?
No, cocaine. I mean, this is store bought. Because I'm sure that it's safe.
I think
I'm just
he goes
talking
for the
about
peyote.
The peyote as well.
the time that we have in general. The average lifespan.
So, what is your take on the mood of the expedition so far, and what do you think about all these new additions we have.
It's the more people making a trek like this without the proper planning, right? As I don't think that if there was any way to avoid it, that we should have taken on more men. As I think that Mr. Stanton had planned for an accurate number, and it may not be dragging on anybody right now, but I'm sure that it will, as this is a difficult trek to make, and it will weed out the weak ones.
So with that in mind, would you say that Mr. Wentworth and Mr. Stanton are doing a poor job, fair job, or a good job at leading this expedition?
What exactly is your reason behind these questions?
Well, the members of the SEU will want to know if there's. This is all part of the drama I hope to include in this report.
You give me a bad Yelp review, I will retaliate.
Are you sure that you're not asking the members of the caravan on behalf of Mr. Stanton or Mr. Wentworth? You spy!
Probably, what's his name? Bowman. At least that's what I always keep calling him. I forget that's
Well,
I feel
Wentworth.
that it's going, it's going as good as it can be trekking through a desert, and these things aren't easy.
I guess that's a very political response there, Mr. Thompson.
How
I
much
was
time
gonna
have
say
you spent tracking through the desert?
0.
As then you are going to find out. As back during the war, as I spent a good amount of my time in the desert, and regardless of resources, regardless of who's in charge, it is no picnic.
Yeah, I didn't have that idea in my mind. It's already been quite difficult, but I was going to say, since you mentioned it, me being a spy for Mr. Stanton, I can tell you I most certainly am not. He frightens me quite a bit, actually. What is your measure
just
of the
what
man?
a spy would say. He's no worse than any of the the sergeants or our higher ranking military officers that I've dealt with. He's strict, but looks to be fair, as he's got a good order on the camp and his men. Right, they follow him for some reason. Right, it's definitely not because they're forced to. So you have to be able to inspire a lot of loyalty to gather that many men that are willing to follow you out into extreme environments like this.
Or perhaps they're just paid very well. Don't you think that could be it?
Money can inspire loyalty just as much as brave acts, don't you think?
Yeah, I suppose you're right. You'd know better than me.
Flanagan took a pay cut.
So across the camp, Mr. Wentworth, you're watching Francesco Orfeo, who's this preteen boy that seems to be doing all the small tasks, kind of like Arbogast is doing for you now, despite your protestations, perhaps.
Mm.
He's running across the camp. He goes up to Barham Even Sala, the doctor, with the telescope and asks him some question, and his face looks crestfallen when he doesn't get a good answer. But then he runs up to Nigel Stedford, who had been taking his lunch near you, and he shows him a map of a structure, to which Nigel also doesn't know what any of it means, but it does afford you an opportunity to look at it, and you can, with a history roll, determine something about the map.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it with my really high history. Oh, look.
Oh, nice.
Success. It's the one historical thing I learned. I don't even know, who my dad was, but I know this history here, whatever it is.
Well, part of it's a recent discussion you've been having with Dr. Francis Morgan on those long train rides, the stuff that was kind of happening behind the scenes. He actually allowed you a history skill increase check sessions ago based off of you listening to him speak about it all. And you realize that he talked at length about Southern Arabia and in the ancient past, and how there used to be a nation or a people called the Himyarites that lived here, who were a pagan people at first, but like many others, they adopted a monotheistic religion. In this case, they adopted Judaism. And Ramanan is the name that they gave to the god of the Hebrews, as Ramanan was one of the pagan deities that, in the sense, like how a lot of them will adopt it. They'll call him by their creator deity, but it's effectively the God of the Hebrew Bible.
Okay.
So you know that the structure, which you identified as a church just off of the way it was illustrated,
Mm-hmm.
is likely the map to an ancient Jewish church that was in this region.
Oh, okay.
But there's no reference on that map to where it would be located.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a look at it and then I'll tell him what I know. This would be an ancient Jewish church, but there's nothing on here that tells me where this would be located. Where did you come across this?
Mr. Stanton found it.
Oh, really? Well, that's interesting. Well, did he send you around to find out if anybody knows about it?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I know. You can tell that to him. There's nothing on here that indicates where it would be, but this would be an ancient Jewish church
Well, thanks, mister.
somewhere nearby.
And he goes darting off with the map with no care of,
Yeah.
like waving it behind him. Not really, he's not quite that young. But so, yeah, he goes darting off back to you, Mr. Stanton, about the time you're standing up to call a break for the camp. Anyways, you're already behind on your estimate for today's travel due to the rain that's about to occur.
I just want to interject that in the 20s, a lot of people thought that whiskey was a good,
Cough medicine?
that it was good for a common cold. So I'll be hitting the
The whiskey?
flask a little heavier than normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And if you get drunk enough, it shuts off your nose anyways. So
Yeah.
you don't even notice it anymore.
Right.
But yeah, it does. It has a soothing effect, I would say, as long as you don't go too hard,
Yeah.
in my experience. Anyways.
So I'll thank Francesco or tell him he did a good job. I'll take that and basically
Throw it away.
throw it away because it's not useful to us.
Right.
But I'll give him the equipment I found in the pack. So the telescope, the
Right.
sextant, and whatever else there was,
Okay, yeah, there's like a hammer and
Yeah.
some spikes, you think, for...
like climbing.
No, it's more for if you had to pry something open,
Okay.
that sort of thing to make a crack wide enough to get something in there and lever it,
Alright.
So you have like the hammer, the crowbar, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess he can keep that too. I'll give him something to play around with while he's.
Yeah, so he takes a moment to transfer it to his pack. I mean, at first he lifts that one up and then some of what was in there falls out because the bottom's all beetle eaten.
Yeah.
So yeah, no sooner do you give the call to break camp and the long line of camels begins to travel off the butte and down a steep path than the clouds begin to drizzle a steady rain. For 3 hours, the rain comes until you are all sodden. The droplets, while warm, are cooler than the air. However, once the downpour subsides, as the sun slips towards the horizon, the air becomes uncomfortably warm and cloying. What was once rain on your brow now becomes sweat, which refuses to evaporate in the humidity. This will make your constitution roll hard today. Also, at the cost of 10 miles of your 13-mile progress, you can scout out a good place to graze the camels if you wish.
Okay.
You can, looking at your map, determine that you are about 40 or so miles away from Marib, where they would be able to water.
Yeah.
But if you have more rain like this and it's slow going like today, then it might be pushing it.
Still, only making 3 miles out of the 10 or
Right.
13 doesn't seem.
And there might be the opportunity tomorrow.
Yeah.
After all, it does seem to be raining all across these mountains and in the valley ahead. Okay, so you'll push on that 13 miles, and you see a grove of acacia trees near the end of a wadi that's now flowing with brownish water that would provide enough space for your encampment for the night, Mr. Stanton.
Yep.
And we'll go ahead and do those constitution rolls
Hmm.
from everybody. That's all right. So because of the humidity and the heat after the rain, it makes all your constitution rolls hard. If you have a cold, that's further complicated and it'll make your constitution roll an extreme.
But if I am drunk on whiskey, shouldn't that bring it back to hard? All right.
Should I use the wisdom of the time, or should I use my future wisdom?
Oh, dude, I got it.
Well done.
Just normal.
I'm the toughest son of a gun.
All right. Who else is rolling today? Francesco, Curtis, and a standard oil man.
Start hearing.
It'll be a cold day in hell before a cold puts me in hell.
Right. All right, Francesco.
You're gonna start hearing old Buck Cherry playing from
Yeah.
Motet soon.
I'm all lit up again. Well, you succeeded, didn't you?
It's hard for us.
Oh,
There are some things you can do that with desert survival. In this case, let me see. You don't have a cold, and you just have the humidity. I mean, I looked into it. I didn't see too many hacks for it, but yeah, we'll go ahead and you mean lessen it for the group air conditioning.
Well,
in a survival situation, you would know that when it comes to the climate or the elements, that really your main thing, if you want to avoid its negative effects, is to shelter from it. In the case of sheltering this way is just getting into shade, but that would probably cut into the distance. You could try to convince Mr. Stanton to, shave off, we'll say, the 3 miles, make it an even 10 with some breaks by, convincing them that, hey, this is going to be hard on people, especially if they're not used to it, the way the humidity in the air. So you could approach him about that if you'd like.
And I've almost got to consider that he's aware of it, though.
He might not be. He does depend on a lot of experts in his group.
And
so.
I guess I'll bring it up. Yeah, just if I see that we're like pushing, or if we're not taking rest in shaded areas, then at that point I'll bring it up.
well, we're going to be resting in a grove of acacia trees, right?
That's at the end of the day, yeah.
am I aware that most of my camp is becoming sick?
You could give a hard spot hidden.
No.
The cocaine pills are for Mr.
Yeah.
Thompson.
Would I be able to use a first aid to tell based off of conditions that I'm seeing?
Well, you were interacting firsthand with Curtis Cooper, so you're aware at least that he's sick. I imagine due to your association with Mr. Wentworth, you'll be speaking with him at some point, so you might pick it up a little easier. So if you just have that regular spot hidden, or you could use first aid instead.
This is what I'll actually kind of just put it into
success
to him
Nice.
bugging me on this, and that is, we're going to push for Marib.
Right.
We can take our rest then.
Well, what say you, Mr. Thompson?
I mean, he's the expedition leader. At this point, nobody's died, so
And I'm stacking
gotta
fatigue.
trust in what he says. I will let him know that it looks like multiple members of the party have taken ill. Not sure if, without treating any, if it's due to the heat or just something that somebody picked up along the way, though.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And when you want to start paying for my services, I'll begin to listen. Till then, bugger off.
All right. So we'll stick with the 13 miles then. According to my rolls, Curtis Cooper and Francesco Orfeo both will have picked up a level of exhaustion for the day.
Who?
Francesco
Oh, okay.
and Curtis.
Well, not me.
Nope, you did good. I don't think any of and even Charles Stanton made it.
We're main
No, I didn't.
characters.
Oh, you didn't?
No, it was a normal success, not a hard.
Yeah, so you're at level 2, but if you get a good night's sleep tonight, you'll stay at level 1 tomorrow. Okay, so as I said, you camp near a grove of acacia trees. Looks like it was planted in the years past to take advantage of this wadi that fills with water all the time. And it's a good spot to water the camels. Of course, they still haven't had feed for a couple of days. But Francesco notices he's sort of sitting up at one of these trees and looking at his new lute, kind of messing with the
Looking through
sextant and all this sort of stuff. But he gets kind of bored after about an hour or so, and he's fiddling around at the base of the tree, and he stands up and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Stanton, look at this."
Yeah, I'll go over.
So he shows to you that at the base of the tree, it seems that this tree was planted in a rib cage. You can see the bones sticking out of the earth, right? Now, you might know what that signifies with an occult or anthropology roll.
Which I do not have.
You could do a natural world or science botany to determine how long ago this would have had to occur by the age of the tree.
I'm at
So right now,
2 dice and a hard.
Let me see. Actually, the level 2 exhaustion doesn't. It adds a little different. So you have 1 for the exhaustion, and now your speed would be halved basically on foot. So you're moving slow as hell.
So just 2 penalty die?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you don't know how long ago it happened, but you've been many places and seen lots of weird rituals that different tribes do for burying their dead, and what you reckon that's probably the most likely explanation.
Well, could I, based on bone bleaching, determine if it was closer or further away in time from us? Just a real simple.
Yeah, you think it would be further.
Yeah.
It was probably an old form of burial, Francesco. Quite old by the looks of it.
Why would they do such a thing?
Different strokes for different folks.
Doesn't seem Christian,
Well, it's probably not. It was probably pagan.
Pagan?
Yes.
What is pagan?
Something that's not Christian.
It's very circular, but it does answer the question. Thank
It
you,
does.
Mr. Stanton.
Now, don't bother it. Just because it's not good to trespass on a burial site.
Yeah. And you, since they're grove, they're, about 6 feet apart, these trees, and you can see, looking at the bases of the other ones, that this seems to be the case with every tree in this little grove. And now we can move on to our rest, unless there's something one of you players wanted to do.
No.
I think I will set all of my men to guarding my tent to ensure I get a good night's rest.
I don't care what it is, water.
Because I can sleep through gunshots.
Shoot it until it stops moving.
No, there's nothing I want.
Okay. So everybody that had a level of exhaustion will lose 1. So I think that was just Mr. Stan. So unfortunately, you're still stuck with the 1 that puts the penalty on all your skill rolls. But the day dawns, a new day, Friday, March 4th. Proves to be a cloudy morning, although your guess would be no rain today, but perhaps a break from humidity and sun. Morning trek begins with the last of the steep paths before your route enters an expansive flat valley. So let's start with that navigate.
Alrighty. Alright, so hard.
All right, so we are making the navigate roll for Friday, March 4th. Currently, you failed a hard navigate.
Mm-hmm. And what I want to do is, much like my father, I'm going to wash some cocaine down with a nice cup of coffee and then light my cheroot.
Now I see the lay of the land.
Nice nicotine speedball going.
Everything breaks into sharp relief. All right, go ahead and make that pushed roll.
All right. At normal everything?
Yeah, just the normal.
All right.
Wait, this one you actually have a bonus on, I think. So we'll have to refactor this because you didn't have the rain problem today, right? Which added a penalty. So you were just looking for a regular success, which it appears you still failed.
Yeah.
So now you're pushing with 1 bonus die because of the cocaine.
I hate when it hangs up like that. Excellent.
All right. All right. Extreme success is making up for lost time, 35 miles.
So, Mr. Wentworth, I plan to push hard today to make up for lost time.
All right, let's do it.
If it was up to me, I'd ride these camels until they're walking on the knuckles, but...
35. Get you pretty close. 5 more miles and you're there. You want to risk a push into Marib?
Mr. Wentworth, what do you say?
Let's do it.
I think we can push into Marib today.
Let's push it.
I like to think that the whole time Stanton is leaned forward in his camel seat or whatever the saddle is. I like to think it's a couch is the name of it.
What do they call that? A huda?
Yeah, I'm not. I heard it and forgot it. Failed to note it.
Is that just what they use for elephants?
I just like to think that it's called a couch. That way the Buck Cherry references
Right.
can continue.
Okay, so and a much energized Mr. Stanton plots the course for today. It's going to be a great day, that's for sure.
Grand.
There's a moment early on when the last of the clouds from the morning are burned away that you see this valley you're heading into in totality. From this vantage, the area looks quite green, especially after yesterday's rains, which gives you some hope that you'll be able to graze these camels without problem. Several of the wadis are still filled with gurgling water, and insects that feed on the greenery begin to buzz and swarm as the day sets in. What really grabs your attention, however, is this red-yellow smudge covering like the far horizon to the northeast. After a moment, you realize you're looking at a great expanse of sand and salt flats. It has, in its effect on the observer, a similar sensation to looking out over over endless ocean waves. It speaks of destiny great and terrible for those who enter it. For those investigators that haven't been in a desert of this size, it is a awe-inspiring sight to see, because you don't even recognize it at first. It's so immense. And according to your maps, that's only the western edge of the Rub al-Khali, which you won't be going into quite yet. You'll be skirting at the edges of it for some distance, but to see it,
yeah, and I'll point that out to whoever. I might even shout it out in my current state. Like
that in the distance. That's our destination, boys. The God's Hammer.
Okay, so of small consequence to you, Mr. Stanton, is a tickle at the back of your throat. You're too happy about the cocaine. And you get, unlike a sober person who their excuses for why they feel this way, the dust in the air, you have the full energy of cocaine to force all your ideas to perfection, right? So, of course, it's the dust. Nothing to be concerned about. We'll rest at the end of this and everything will be quite right. All right, so you call a rest after a long stretch when you're well into this valley near a low rock hill, upon which is a 6-foot mortared stone tower. It's only really a tower in its shape, not like a tower that you would climb up into, right?
okay,
Perhaps a marker of some kind. But you're in the flat part next to that low rock hill. Most of the Yemeni workers in the 2 bandars give it kind of a wide berth. They don't couch their camels near it.
I'll do the same with the rest of the camp. It gets difficult to force the labor to open up trapped doors if you don't show respect and proper caution.
Now, Mr. Thompson, you're sat there eating some tinned meat, and one of the geologists, Mitchell Brown, who you've spoken with, he came and asked for some whiskey several days ago. He wonders what it is, and he's like, why don't we go up there and have a look at it, Mr. Thompson?
I don't think I would know better. So, yeah, sounds like just the thing to distract from the rigors of the journey so far. I'll stand up and start heading over that way.
Okay, so from the angle you're approaching it, it just looks like a solid stone construction made with irregular stones and fitted together, although they're fit together pretty well so that it stands upright with no threat of toppling over. But on the northern side, you see there's an alcove with an idol like set in this little space. You think it's made of alabaster. It's a nude woman like adorned with snakes. They're like draped over her shoulder. And in front of that, there's this broken fragment of ancient pottery. So, with hard history, hard occult, or extreme EDU, you might be able to identify this figure.
Nope. As occult and history were the same, so...
Yep, you have no idea who it is. It's just sat in there. It can be removed if you wish. And does it seem like anybody has been like messing with it? And are there signs that it's just been sitting there for a long time? Right. Yeah. It's tough to gauge its age because it's a stone idol. The pottery below it. I mean, you've seen people burn things in a bowl in your travels as sort of a sacrifice, right? You know, they might burn a message they write or, sage or whatever. So you recognize that that was probably just a clay bowl that was used to burn offerings in. Yeah, but it doesn't seem like that's been the case in quite a while.
This guy's a geologist, right?
Yeah.
As I'm going to ask him what he makes of it, because he may have a little more insight than I do.
He says, all that it tells me is I've been too long away from women. He's trying to make a joke. He's pretty buzzed up at the moment, but let me...
Is there any writing or anything on it?
There
Or
does look like there
symbols?
was some on the pottery fragments, but it appears to be Arabic script.
I'm not here to loot places. Well, not this place at least. So,
Right.
as I don't really see, and unless there's some other motive, then I'm not really seeing a reason why I would take it.
Okay. When you guys come back down,
And if
one
there's
of the
writing that I can write down, though, 'cause that might be of interest, right?
yeah, you could try to copy it, I suppose. Do you have
Yeah.
much artistic skill?
No.
Not really. Well, we'll leave it to either extreme dexterity or you can do art craft, sketching type stuff. I think that only comes in at a 5%, though. So whatever's better for you.
Yeah, I mean, I give it my best.
Yeah. So you have a fragment you jotted down of what was on the pottery. But when you're coming down from there, one of the Yemeni soldiers, Bandar, you think his name was, is having some sort of reaction to this. He's yelling at you in Arabic. You don't really understand that, I don't think. Correct?
How
Yeah.
far away is he?
Well, they had given a good 25 yards between them and this low hill. So they were generally the furthest away. But once he saw you were up there, he stands up and he's yelling. This draws your attention, Mr. Wentworth, because he's suddenly yelling. He's just warning you away from, that place is cursed,
Oh, okay.
right? Is what he's yelling at him.
I'll wave at him.
And say, like, a common curse they like to say is God black in your face. So he's basically God black in your face, man. You're going to bring this whole expedition to ruin,
Okay.
right?
All right. So yeah, I'll try and calm him down. Be like, what's the problem?
It's a cursed place.
And what kind of a curse? I mean, what are we talking about? Do you know about this place? What is it?
Ancient gods, but God is God.
Mm-hmm.
It's infidels and apostates, It's
I
a
see.
cursed place.
It's a curse. Okay. And what do you think will happen
Ruin.
to all of us?
God will turn his face from us.
So what should we do?
Well, stay well away from that man. And he points to Mr. Thompson.
All right. So then I'll look and see what, like, Mr. Thompson went somewhere. He went up on a
Yeah, they
hill?
went up on a hill. There was like a low stone tower.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Well, just you're gonna freak everybody out with this, so you
All
got
right.
you got to calm down.
you can give me a social skill roll. Sounds to me like you're being more persuasive than anything. But you could also do charm.
We'll try charm.
Yeah.
I didn't succeed. I don't feel very good. I'm in a bad mood. I'm
You
like,
got a cold. You're a little
would
maybe in between the buzz and your next drink.
it's not helpful for you to be shouting this across the camp.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he was ordered to obey your instructions, so he does calm himself. But you can see that some damage has been done where him, along with the rest of the Yemenis, are kind of, looking at Mitchell Brown, one of the geologists, and Mr. Thompson, like they're pariahs basically now.
Okay.
So-
well, how about if I just tell them and to keep their distance from you? Will that work?
That would be good.
Okay.
We shall ride at the back, he rides to the front.
That works. Yeah. Or vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We can come to that arrangement.
Okay.
And you will intercede on our behalf with your God in your prayers. Perhaps he'll listen and show mercy.
Perhaps it is you who should pray for your own intercession.
I see. Okay. Well, where I'm from, the religious leaders, they pray for
I'm not a religious
people below
leader.
them. Okay.
I'm a soldier.
Well,
I know the soldier's prayer.
so, we're a big group of strangers all traveling, and most of us don't know anything about this land, so we don't mean any offense, but if you could give us a warning before...
Are you trying to push some sort of...
No,
outcome
I'm
here?
just a conversation.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
just, a warning before we traipse across cursed ground.
Yeah, you can kind of see the confusion comes here as this is something like a child knows,
Mm-hmm.
right? So to give a warning, like he just doesn't understand, like,
Yeah.
how do you not know this? Is this not spoken of in your holy books to not worship idols and things of that nature?
I suppose it is. Yeah.
Also, it could be like he could figure that we knew because I purposely set the camp up further away upon them setting up their camps further away. So they probably could have figured that we had common sense.
Yeah, but he goes on about if they're not careful, they'll likely bargain with a djinn or something that dwells out here in these places.
Jinns aren't real.
One of my other characters
Dealt with one.
so I'm not worried about it. But yeah, I'll try and get him calmed down. And
Yeah, he does, and he says, I'll try to warn you if I can think of it. But nonetheless, the man might, want to cleanse himself over the next few days.
I'll speak to him.
Perhaps God will look favorably on him.
I'll speak to him about it.
No drinking.
Now, come on, let's
bathe
get
himself,
some
laying with women.
whiskey and some bacon and call it good. Yeah.
Infidel. All right. So you get it as calm down as you can, but you can see the superstition that runs through this the crowd of Yemeni workers and stuff. What's done is done, you know. But you don't think there'll be any violence,
Okay.
at least as of yet, as a result of that.
Well, I'm a little sympathetic to him because I've heard the stories of what happens when you build on Indian burial grounds.
Right.
And so I kind of believe that sort of thing. you know.
And even if there is no merit to the underlying story, you still have to contend with what people think will happen,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it passes in quiet from then on, like there was a little bit of mixing sometimes between those who could speak Arabic and the Yemeni workers and herdsmen, but they're kind of looking suspiciously, particularly at Mr. Thompson. For Mitchell Brown's part, he's so schnockered that he just doesn't like it washes over him, He's like, what's the problem? But Mr. Thompson, you pick up on the vibe for sure. They're all shooting you looks as though you'd come in, wearing a wig filled with lice and what have you, right? Something like that.
Yeah, Joseph, it's best to keep your distance from them. They say that that's a cursed area and that you're going to bring ruin down on us from God. So best if you keep your distance from them for a while.
As our God or theirs? Because only one is real.
Holy war.
Yeah. Well, it's not the God so much I'm worried about, but the followers.
So
Well, he does have a fragment of Arabic, you think, there.
yeah, if it was so cursed, you'd figure they'd put up a sign or something. But I did find, I don't know if you how your Arabic is,
women.
or
A sign.
how well I transcribed this. But can you make anything out of it? It's pretty terribly done, by the way.
Too bad you didn't fumble that inscription. Like your drawing of, what was it a drawing of? Was it the eye symbol that became like a running gag where it became like sand loss to look at? I can't remember. Anyhow, sorry. There is an inscription there. You can give me a luck roll, Mr. Thompson. We'll see if you captured something. So yeah,
Extreme success.
it says this place is cursed. There was a sign. No, you can't. He didn't copy it well enough to make out the whole length of Arabic. He tried to, not trace, but
Yeah, the rub.
yeah, he didn't even rub it. He just like drew it by hand
Oh, okay.
to to get it back to you. But you do make out one word, which seems to be like a proper noun, and that is the name Lilith, as it would be derived in English.
Okay.
So that affords you a hard history, hard occult, or extreme EDU roll if you wish.
Now I know what my occult or history skill is in real life.
Enough to know who Lilith is?
Yeah.
Is it because of Diablo?
No.
Oh.
Failed.
Yeah, it doesn't, you don't know which figure it would belong to. But again, according to your long conversations with Dr. Francis Morgan, there's the whole host of pagan deities that were worshipped in antiquity, in pre-Islamic times. So it could likely be one of those, which explains why modern Yemeni folk would be so against it.
Okay.
So the break comes to an end, and you guys travel on to this along the valley, making excellent time. Charles Stanton is a man possessed. He picks the straightest path as possible through these dunes, avoiding any need to climb up or down. And you guys go like 40 miles all the way to Marib,
Drifting this camel.
pushing the sunlight to its limit to and basically the sun is fully down by the time you see the twinkling lights from this village. Now, let's have a group luck roll, whoever's got the lowest.
46.
70.
I think it's me at 45.
Ooh,
All
okay.
right, Mr. Thompson.
I've not been rolling great tonight, sorry guys.
Yeah, no one has.
Okay,
Except Brandon.
roll me a 1d75.
65 people die.
65. Oh no.
I think that's one of our camels, probably.
Well, Curtis, we solved the problem with the the size of the expedition. Yeah, so that is one of your pack camels.
Okay.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Bet you could dry camel out here pretty dang quick.
Yeah.
That's pack camel number 11. Yeah, so just as you see these twinkling lights of the village in the distance, you hear these grunts and groans of a camel, and it resolves itself to be snake bit, basically, in the leg. Now, it's very possible the camel will survive, but it won't be carrying what it was carrying, which was a 55-gallon drum of gasoline.
To most likely run Bowman's drill.
Yeah, the generator, and your generators, because you guys can string up lights if you're so inclined. If you need to, you have those.
There's safety in the dark.
So, but at this stage, I think you have probably had enough water that you can repurpose one of those now empty camels to carry that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you'll have to figure out something when you refill your water in Marib.
They might have camel for sale here.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully the camel will pull through.
Let's see.
Yeah, if it's looking real bad, Stanton will just have it put down and divvied up.
Okay, camel.
But that's it. While we're figuring this out, I'll send people on ahead.
Okay.
A small group. Someone that, if Wentworth wants to go, someone that can speak the language.
That's what I was going to say, because the interior minister had chastised me for not sending warning that a large group was going to be camped out to the city.
Right.
So I was going to say we should send someone ahead to...
Oh, yeah. Camel will survive, although...
It'll be a little bit before it can carry weight.
Your thought is, because it basically will take a wound and would be sick from venom for several days, is that its best chance of survival would just be to cut it loose here, and then it can, couch for a while and graze.
Or we kill it and eat it.
You could kill it and harvest its meat, if you wish.
I don't like the idea of letting just...
If we can find a replacement, yeah, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
But if not, we'll kill it and quickly try rationing up its.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get the...
Do we have a bunch of salt? We could just salt cure it, probably.
Well, the problem with a bunch of salt is the weight. So I figure you have the seasoning amount,
Okay.
but it would be kind of like one of those things of you can carry the salt to keep meat, but it's kind of better just to carry things that don't spoil, right?
Mhm.
And so, I mean, you do have salted meats in the way of bacon, but doing it on your own usually is too costly in time or weight.
Well, guess the camel can pray that we find another one.
But you probably have enough people here. You put Vincent on it, or sorry, not Vincent, but Victor. You could probably eat a large portion of it. You figure like 60% of whatever a camel weighs, you would get out of in meat.
Camel stew.
Traded in town. All right.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
So, Mr. Wentworth, you're going to take a small contingent into Marib.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to warn them that there's a large party approaching so they don't get scared.
Yeah, so you on your way in, you pass the signs of ancient structures. And again, here you had heard Dr. Francis Morgan talk about how Marib was the seat of the Sabaean people, which is where like Queen Sheba was thought to have come from long, long ago. But the village that is there now is just a village around a crude reservoir that's been made that collects a lot of this water that flows down from the highlands. And that's kind of how they survive here. So there's plenty of water here, but the village itself is not, it's not like Sana'a, which already was medieval in appearance. This is, people scraping out a living with almost nothing. So there's very little of the village to speak of.
Okay.
But there are some fires, some open fires burning out there, and a few people give calls, like who goes there, what have you, in Arabic as you guys approach. Mr. Thompson, were you going to go with him?
Yeah, I would have.
Yeah, I can go with him. Because I may not speak the language, but maybe I can be of some use in there.
You can be like, Mr. Wentworth, say this. Give him the script.
Half close your eyes to look up through your lashes when you say these.
So there's a aged man who appears to be something like a village elder there that comes out to speak with you once you've said, we're not here to cause any harm. We just need to resupply and water our camels and what have you. So you're introduced to this aged man named Khalid, who, first his eyes widen upon seeing a group of Christians come into his village. Yeah. But then when you speak the tongue, that kind of softens his gaze, which was critical at first, but that goes a long ways to bridging the gap between the two of you. And what you ask for is well within their capabilities. So you're asking for water for your camels, the opportunity to graze them, and to resupply on food.
Yeah.
And perhaps purchase another camel.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Khalid says that can all be arranged in the morning. Why don't you come in and have something to eat? And we have plenty of water.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, I'll follow him.
Did you want to send word back to the encampment?
Yeah.
To post up and...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Khalid leads you to this stone hut where, they have a bed of coals in the center of it, and there's some unleavened bread cooking in it, and some sort of stew in a pot, which he dishes each of you guys out, Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wentworth, as well as plenty of water. Although if you drink the water, unlike your most recent resupply, the water has quite a bitter taste here. A lot of mineral taste to it. It's not gross exactly, it's just not pleasant. So, but yeah, they make conversation with you. They ask you what news, like where you come from, what news there is.
Yeah, so, I'll give him, I don't know what he doesn't know, but I'll
he says very few travelers come from the west. Usually they come from the south.
Well, we came through Sana'a, right? That was the name of the... Yeah. And a few days ago, and we're on our way further east, and then I'll tell them all the stuff that might have been big news in the world,
Okay.
The war's over. Good guys won.
Right. It's like war. War never ends. Anyhow, so you break bread for a little bit, and he says, I have a tent that you may use to sleep.
You. That's very kind.
Let me show it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so he leads you out, and it's it's made of black fibers, and it's pretty spacious in there with dividing camel hair, like curtains and things in it,
nice.
And many pillows and rugs for you guys to sleep on, those of you lucky enough to be in there.
Yeah, awesome.
All right.
That's very kind.
Let's do the Constitution roll for the day then. Let's figure it out. If you got the cold, that's one penalty. And you pushed, we'll just do the one penalty if you got the cold. Otherwise, it's at regular. Okay. So hard for you, Mr. Stanton, or regular for people who don't have the cold. You still have the cold.
All right, so penalty and hard?
Just hard is what you want, Mr. Stanton.
All right.
Fail.
Nope.
Get me in a comfortable tent and then all my strength fades.
It was the comfort that was holding you back. Okay, so who
I think it might also be the lack of whiskey.
Yeah.
You need more whiskey. So, Bandar Hadi, how do you do? Immune to his own cold virus. Lucky, but he fails. Unnamed Stanton Inc. member.
Dock his pay.
Did he fail? Stranger, yes. And Mitchell Brown would be at the hard level. Fails. Okay, half a second here, guys. You roll a d10 for me, Chris.
8.
All right, if you weren't coked up and you were paying attention, you would notice that this cold had affected your photographer, rifleman first, of course. What is going on here?
Thankfully, I was planning to recuperate here, or have the party recuperate here, so we might,
Be back in...
might waste a day or two here, potentially, and just get this cold over with, too, depending on how bad it gets.
Okay, so did any of my players... See, Charles got a regular... What did you get yesterday, Brandon?
For the Constitution?
Yeah.
Extreme success.
Okay, so you have... You roll a d3, and that's how many days of the symptom you have left.
Okay.
Now, Charles Stanton has a regular. Go ahead and roll your a d10, and that's how many days of your cold symptom you have left. Maximum.
2 days for me.
And so far, Mr. Thompson, you're not feeling any symptoms of anything. All right, so you guys strike camp outside Marib, and unless there's something specific you want to do in the evening, Mr. Stanton, then we can pass on to March 5th, Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got nothing I want to do.
Okay, so March 5th, the sun is obscured behind cloud cover again in the early part of the day. Since you're in this valley, you can see the shadows of the clouds as you look out over the horizon, sort of slide across the valley floor, because there's very little breaking it up, so that's that kind of cool effect. You can see their progress. We don't have to do a navigate today, since it doesn't seem like you're planning on leaving today. Okay. So there's plenty of grazing around here.
Okay.
So that shouldn't be a problem. There's also water. You'll have them fully fed and watered.
Yeah. Did I get a good night's sleep?
Yes.
Just got a cold.
But you still have the cold. So.
Yeah.
But you should be out of the exhaustion now. Well, with what you plan to spend the day here, you will be out of it by the end of the day. Because the cocaine will wear off and you'll have the delayed effect come in. You'll get past it.
All right.
So it should be good as far as that goes.
But I will set my men to refilling any of our emptied water, seeing that it is properly filtered and boiled as necessary.
Yeah, Khaled offers you guys can come at the well there. You can lead the camels down to the reservoir. They can drink from there, no problem. They have a well that just has a bitter taste to it, but everybody in the village seems to be fine.
Right.
You can still go through the process of boiling it. You have the time if you wish.
Yeah, I just
Prefer.
Yeah.
You've drank from enough wells that were supposed to be clean.
Well, the last thing you want is to wake up, take your morning constitutional, and find worms looking back at you. So,
Right. So Dr. Francis Morgan approaches you, Mr. Wentworth, and wonders if it seems like we're not moving on today. A few miles from here is supposed to be the ancient Awam temple, from the Sabian people. It might be, it's a few hours out of here, but it might be worth looking at. I don't think it'll trip up the people the way the stone tower did.
So you want to go look at that?
Yeah, and if you're okay with it.
That sounds fine to me.
Okay, so let's go after breakfast then.
Okay.
Anybody else want to come?
Yeah, I'll spread the word around that we're going to take a little excursion for a couple hours and see if anybody else is interested. I'll see if Stanton is interested.
I'll assign a couple men to go with them.
Okay.
But Stanton will stick around.
Now, in your sober mind, you can see that this cold is... The Yemenis are unaffected by it, but through those who are foreign to the country, it has spread through about half of them, roughly, give or take.
The dangers of cultural exchange.
Right. And but your Dr. Sala comes out to you at some point to mention it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how he himself did. He himself seems to be under the effects of it by that morning. And he says, if you like, I have plenty of syrup I could distribute amongst those who are affected. If we're staying here today, it does make him a little groggy, but will help them rest better.
Yes, I don't think we're in any immediate danger.
I was like,
Yes, I don't think we're in any immediate danger. So, distribute the syrup as you will, Dr. Zola.
I will see it done, Mr. Stanton. And he goes about, issuing, teaspoonfuls to people who are sick. But he does come back concerned about one of your members, not of Stanton Expeditions, but Curtis Cooper in particular. It's not just in his head. I had to listen to his chest. It seems to have impacted his lungs.
Which one was it?
He's the jug-eared
drunkard
journalist from Miskatonic.
So he's thinking it's a pneumonia?
Perhaps. It just seems to be hitting him a little harder at this point. If I had my way, I wouldn't have him traveling anytime soon.
Well, unfortunately, Dr. Zola, we don't get our way out here.
Yes, I expected as much.
Will he be out of commission?
Well, he could push through it. He is young. It's likely he could still travel. It worries me to put him back on a camel amongst all that dust that we might end up killing him in the long run.
And what?
Of course, we could force him to just leave off the expedition here and recuperate in Marib. I'm sure they seem kindly around here. They might take care of him.
Well, perhaps we should go and speak with him.
Okay, so you follow Dr. Sala over to his little cot. And that was sort of unusual when, he begged off wanting to come into Marib with you. So, yeah, he's just sort of laying in it under his blanket, even though it's 80 degrees, right?
Yeah.
And he just looks pretty bad off.
And you sure this is what is going through the camp, Dr. Sola?
Fairly certain, I think.
So we can't catch it?
No, not what he has, not unless we're similarly predisposed to the way the virus, which I think it is, appears to be affecting him.
What was his name? Sorry.
Curtis?
Curtis, we can leave you here in Marib, or you can push through and be a man. You have...
What do you think a good time is? I wanted to at least spend one day here, but we could go 2.
Yeah, well...
Maybe see if we can trade camel meat for...
2 days.
Or first we need a new camel, and then maybe see if we can trade the old camel meat for something.
Yeah, whatever supplies we need. 2 days should be good.
You have until the day after tomorrow to make your decision.
No need, Mr. Stanton. I should be good to go. Just a bit of a cold, I think.
I would say...
But then he has a hacking cough to punctuate that.
All right. Any suggestions, Dr. Sala? Should he perhaps take to his feet more, or complete bed rest?
Well, I'll keep an eye on him. I think rest is ideal, but I've actually learned that it's better to get up and stress the lungs to some degree, so I'll work with him. We'll see if we can get him through it.
Very well. All right.
Okay.
I'll go back to doing what I was overseeing.
All right, so Mr. Thompson and Mr. Wentworth, you guys are going to set out with Dr. Francis to look at this Awam temple, he calls it, some holdover from the Sabian Empire. And
yeah, so we'd have Arbogast with us.
With you comes Arbogast.
Couple men Stanton assigned to us.
Bo Whiteman, and who, as I said, is suffering from the cold as well. He says to his geologist that you ought to go there. This land looks like we're getting close to where the oil is at. See if there's anything up there.
You can smell it.
So he requests that they come to poke around.
Taste it in the water.
So you guys gather a few camels and what supplies seem necessary, which if you, in the survival tab, you do have that basic food supplies for 14 days. That's kind of like what you're carrying at that point, although less until you replenish it today. So, and you leave with your personal effects. And you travel upward to a rockier part of the desert, although not quite mountainous, passing a structure that looks like this, which appears to be an ancient stone dam, no longer, trapping water that flows down from wadis in the mountains. As you can see, there's just a filled wadi that flows beneath it. So you ford that shallow wadi to go up into those hills, and you come to this Awam temple, which looks very similar to the stonework you saw at that dam. Let's see if I actually uploaded something about it. Okay, forgot to on that one. But it proves itself to be a circular structure at its parameter, as though there were one time long ago a low wall that encircled these stone houses, and then there are about 8 pillars that just stretch upward. For what they were holding up or to what purpose, you don't know. But you can see how they track along this circle in an interesting way the sun's, the shadows they cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it might have been some sort of sundial or something to that effect. But Dr. Francis Morgan can illuminate some of it. He said this was likely constructed in the 7th century BC, so very old. I don't know why the folks in this area don't have a problem with this temple, but they do with those little shrines and idols.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of revere this place as near as I've read, but it was evidently to some sun god. Almaquah was his name that they worshipped long ago. And he's poking, like you're poking through these little huts, and he's showing you where like the priests would take their absolutions and whatnot before they went on to pray, where sacrifices might have been done. But a call in Arabic from outside the perimeter catches your attention, Mr. Wentworth.
Yeah, I'll go investigate.
You see a figure in black clothing, the telltale Bedouin gear, on a camel, like up on a ridge, calling down, come out of that place. Let us trade and share news. He's calling down.
Oh, okay. So I'll get Thompson's attention and point this out. He said, come out of that place and let us trade. So should we go see what he wants?
You can see the men that Stanton sent with you are on like high alert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, do we see any other?
Just him
Just
now.
one, yeah.
But Nigel has told you that they, in sort of prepping you for dealing with them, both you and Mr. Stanton, he says they, your Bedouin has 5 names. One's their name, their father's name, grandfather's name, sub-tribe, and then the greater tribe that they belong to. So where there's one, there's usually others of that little sub-tribe, their family unit. So
okay.
He's probably just come down as one so as not to alarm you.
Yeah. What do you think, Joseph?
Well, I think that we ought to be prepared, just in case this isn't a trainer. And I'll pat my bag where I've got my pistol and then take it out.
So I'll just have the Stanton's men, everybody stay here and tell Stanton's men to, keep a sharp eye.
And the geologists have kind of gone up in the rock hills a little bit, and they're looking at things you don't understand, but they only pause for a moment, and they can be watched by Stanton's men as well as while they continue their work.
Okay.
And you and Mr. Thompson and Arbogast, of course, go off to treat.
Yeah, we'll see.
With these Bedouin.
Mm-hmm.
So you follow him in silence. He stays a few paces away from you. There's an air about him as though he's trying his best not to spook a skittish animal, in this case the skittish animal being you guys. He's keeping his movements clear, and the way he leads you to his small encampment, there's a long sight line so you guys can see it, well before you're amongst it. And it seems to be about a dozen Bedou in their camel hair tents, and they have a low fire, well, not really fire, just that big bed of coals there, where as you approach, you can already smell coffee roasting. And as you've been instructed by Nigel Stedford once again, the treat will begin with, a cup of coffee. And usually they'll offer 3.
Okay.
But when you get into the encampment, they're all out of their tents or off their camels and looking at you with this curiosity that you've grown accustomed to since Sana'a, which is, here's the Christians. Let's look at them. We've only heard of them. Let's see what they do. Are they people like us, or do they breathe fire? But the leader, who introduces himself as Amir of the Rashid, that's his tribe name, begins with, what news? Where do you travel from, and what news comes with it?
Yeah, so I'll just tell him we've come from the west and by way of Sana'a, and whatever would count as news. I don't know. Like the town looked fine when we went through there.
Does Imam Yahya still fight the Christians?
Well, they're not fighting right now, right?
Well, you did see the signs of it, just not at the Capitol, right?
Oh, with the artillery.
When you were on,
yeah.
yeah, right.
That's true. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he still wages his battle.
Well, I wish him God's blessing, but he's no friend of mine.
Oh, I see.
The enemy of us fights with him against the Christians, but not I. We have been tracking somebody who owes us a blood debt. Have you seen them? Another group such as us?
Another group of Bedouin?
Yes.
We have not. We've seen no one yet until you.
And by then, the first cup of coffee is passed around, which is great, by the way. They just have it takes a while because they grind it or roast it and grind it right there. So the whole process takes a little bit. And he's like, we're in need of certain supplies before we carry on. Do you have anything you can trade?
And what exactly are you in need of?
Well, small things to mend and food. When you look around, you can see they're down to basically like flour. Like everybody's eating just like a hard biscuit, food, weapons if you have them.
Okay. Have you tried to trade with the people of Marib? Not far from here.
Well, those are of the Bani Yam tribe that have settled there, and we have a long feud.
Yeah, see.
Although I do not currently fight with them, I do fight with one of their tribe. Those are the people we're looking for. You would take caution traveling. Where are you traveling, I should say?
We're going to continue on eastward.
Yes, that is their territory, and they hate infidels. They won't be pleased to see Christians there.
This is good news. 'Cause
We are.
I don't have to wonder.
We are prepared.
Well, that is good. Now, the news has been shared. I've always had a question if I ever met a Christian, if you'll indulge me.
Of course. Although, I'm not technically a Christian.
He just seems perplexed at that. You
What?
appear as a Christian.
Right. I guess the distinction doesn't mean the same, so never mind. I won't say that part. Yeah. Whatever questions I can answer.
So one of the things Nigel had told you about is they have, like an honor code about a bunch of different things, fairly common that you've heard. But one of them is like, it's like your manliness, right? When it's derived into English, like not being weak and crying out in pain and that sort of thing. So, they value this hard work, not showing your pain, and the acceptance of fate. Fate, according to Nigel, was almost bigger than God amongst the Bedouin. It's the sands blow where they may. Of course, God causes those sands to blow. So fate and God are one and the same thing. But so that's kind of like your rough neophyte understanding as given to you by Stedford. So he poses his question, are you circumcised, Christian, or is that not the way of Christian?
I am. I don't know how much it has to do with Christianity, but we generally are where we come from.
And did you cry out when the circumcision was done?
I don't know. They do it when we're babies, so...
When you're babies? And he just starts like laughing, and like the other ones who were listening in, they're just laughing. I mean, you don't know what they
said.
Yeah, I'll
I'll
translate for Thompson. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't see why they find that entertaining. I mean, do they want us to circumcise them?
Thompson laughing might result in a sand check.
But then I'll keep the conversation going. Are you not?
No, we are. We do it when we're young men.
Ah.
That is the humor in it for us. I suppose you did cry out then during your circumcision.
Well, I might have.
Well, another thing.
Did you?
No.
Did you? But so did you do it yourself?
No.
Or did someone? Okay.
No.
All right.
But another thing I've always wondered about the Christians is, do you marry your women or do you just take them when you want them?
Yeah, and it's been my experience that the women take the men they want where we're from.
Then God
The
runs
man
things
often
much the same in your
has little-
country as he does mine.
Yeah. The man often has little choice, but no, in general, the proposals made and courtship,
Sometimes at gunpoint.
Right.
And this-
sometimes longer than others.
Yeah, so you guys get kind of entrenched in the differences between.
With heavy influence from the parents. Is that
Right.
the custom here as well? Do your parents arrange the marriages for you?
Sometimes that's how it's done in the tribes, but often we marry the women of our competitors.
Hmm.
You know, after a good raid.
Oh, I see. Yeah. There were a lot of people where I'm from that used to do it that way.
Really,
Yeah, a
Bedouin
lot of
like
them.
us.
Much the same in a lot of ways. Nomadic tribes.
And who are these people?
Yeah, so I'll just tell him the stuff that I know, and I would have known about, like the Bannock and the Shoshone. That's where I grew up. Those are the Indians I would have heard about. And then, of course, the famous ones like the Cherokee
Right.
and then Apache, you're right,
Yeah, he listens with like real and apparent interest. Like you kind of get the sense that there's two things at play here. It's a topic that he's had an interest in, but also that words and stories are passed so seldomly out in the desert that when the time comes, this is like of great importance to them. This is how word spreads in the desert. You hear it this way. So yeah, he takes it all in and he says, I think you and I can be cousins, which he means more like friends, right?
Mhm.
And we can trade. Would you permit me to come to where you are and trade? We saw you days ago and know that your caravan is a large one.
I would, and I'll tell him in my culture the the ritual is a handshake, and I'll offer my hand to him.
Yeah,
So.
it is an awkward one because he's never really done
Mhm.
one like that before,
Yeah, but I'll tell him he's welcome to come.
But again, you're struck with how small these people are in relation to, the people you saw back home.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's really just like the lack of calories, and so they just don't grow big and tall. But there's that strength in his grip when he finally does understand the handshake. And so as soon as you're done with that third cup of coffee, he'll strike his encampment and follow you, assuming your business is done there.
Need
In
to
the
put some
temple?
cocaine in that coffee.
Yeah, so I guess then we'll go to collect the people at
The
the
rest of
temple. Mm-hmm. Now we're situated outside of
Marib.
Marib. Is that going to be a problem if you come back with us? Because you're in a blood feud with.
Yes. Well, I do not believe so. Depends on how far away from the town you're situated.
Yeah, not far outside. But surely if you're with us, they can be convinced to.
As long as they cause no harm to us, which I don't expect we don't to them, our business is more pressing.
Okay. Well, as we travel, I would greatly appreciate it if you'd explain to me this whole blood feud and who you're chasing. It sounds very interesting to me. Because we have stories like that where I'm from of, lone marshals traipsing through vast wilderness to bring back wrongdoers to face justice,
Right.
And that stuff really fires up my imagination.
Yeah, well, and he has an old, sun-wrinkled face. Well, it makes his age indeterminable because he apparently has the strength of a middle-aged man, but he looks much older than that. And he says, well, my cousin was killed in one of their past raids, and me and my other cousins here are going to collect the blood debt. Blood begets blood is what he says.
Right.
It must be done. Either the man specifically or a member of their tribe.
Yeah, blood feuds are no mystery to me. It's still pretty common at that time in the United States. So
The Bani Yam are large. I see the number of guns you have.
how many are your number?
There's 12 of them.
12 of them?
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you set for weapons? Do you have rifles?
Yeah, they have what you've seen a lot, which is that Mauser
Mm-hmm.
from the late 1800s, an older model. It's like we've the guns and they're in good condition, but always low on ammo.
Yeah.
We didn't treat with Imam Yahya, and thus we've had to scrounge it on our own
I see.
by raid or trade.
And what do you have to trade?
Very little. What we craft ourselves, information.
Mm-hmm.
What is it you seek?
Well, we'll go back and talk with my I'm forgetting the word here.
Expedition leader?
Yeah.
Caravan leader?
Yeah, whatever.
Boss?
And see what we can trade back and forth. Because in my head, I'm thinking, these people live out here, so
Right.
it could be invaluable just to hear them tell us about the land ahead,
Okay.
And it could be worth some ammunition.
Right. So, Mr. Thompson, you've been, listening to them speak in Arabic, and, when Wentworth decides to translate it, although it does get involved at a certain point where he's detailing out, Native American tribes and the differences and whatnot, where there's less of that going on. But these other Bedouin tribes member are, examining you. They're kind of looking at the cut of your clothes and stuff. Not necessarily in a rude way, but they're just very interested in you. Do you have your rifle?
No, I had my pistol.
Yeah, there's a point where they're asking him, like, where's your rifle? Like, you're a fool to travel in these lands without a gun. They might be asking you that, too, if you didn't bring one.
Well,
although Amir did not ask you that.
No, I would just always have it if I'm going anywhere.
Okay.
My rifle, I know better than to be out in the wilderness without it, so I would have mine, which has probably got to seem like the most beautiful
Right.
piece of craftsmanship they've ever seen. If they've just got those surplus Mausers, I mean, they haven't seen a American-made 30-06.
No.
I mean,
Well, you got a Springfield, probably?
yeah,
Yeah, those are nice.
yeah.
um,
Trade you for a dozen of your women.
but they're staying back from you to let you treat with Amir, and they're more interested in Mr. Thompson. But you can pause to translate the question that's being leveled at him, like, where's your gun? You must be a fool not to travel with one.
Yeah, so I'll tell Thompson, they're asking where your rifle is. They say you're a fool not to have one. But then in their language, I'll say that, like, the weight of his, and I'll make like a crude joke. Like, he can't carry both his balls and a rifle at the same time.
Okay.
Right? To sort of talk him up, but
Right.
also, see if it'll get a laugh out of him.
As
But I won't translate that to Thompson. I'll let him wonder what we're laughing about.
I had strapped my my pistol onto my side, so I'll just pat that and look confident.
Yeah, one of them indicates that he wants to see it, but they start calling you Kurat Kabira, which is big balls. That has become your nickname now. So, yeah, they want to see your pistol. Like, he's offering, one of them's offering up his rifle, the old Mauser, for you to take in exchange. You're not getting the impression this is like a permanent trade, but, he's making the universal, you go shoot it, I'll go shoot yours sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll unholster it and hand it over to him.
Yeah, so this is probably, he's never seen anything like this one. Because the Germans had their little, what do you call it?
Like
With the Luger.
Yeah.
Is this the 1911 he's got?
No, he has kind of like the Italian version of it. Very similar in look, right?
Okay.
But
just not as good.
probably not. Because it's not American made.
Right, exactly.
But, he struggles with certain modern features on it, I don't know if you walk around chamber or not.
Yeah, usually I do.
But the slide on it is sort of different for his experience. So
yeah, and
he's
I'll
struggling to-
demonstrate it if
Okay.
Before handing it over.
Okay. And so he fires off a few uncertain rounds against the backdrop, and he kind of is laughing at it, and he says something to Mr. Wentworth's ear about, well, it would be good for hunting rabbits.
Good for a woman to shoot.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you can fire off that Mauser if you'd like. Give me your rifle's roll.
I'm gonna push it. Watch it jam and backfire.
What's nice?
There we go. As the jam
All
and
right.
backfire
Yeah.
would have been the fail point.
Yeah, so you hit a target, and he says, "Correct, very good, big balls indeed." And okay, we'll go for a little bit longer here before we wrap up. So, your conversation with these Bedouin of the Rashid tribe comes to an end and they follow you away from the Awam temple back to the expedition camp. But as you're traveling back there, Mr. Thompson, Martin Brown, one of Bo Whiteman's geologists, the drunkard, comes up and he's like, any chance you can get me some more of that whiskey when we get back into camp, Mr. Thompson? You helped me out the other day, running a bit dry.
Yeah, I should still have some in my rations.
You will move closer on the axis.
As you really ought to have planned better for a extended trip here. I don't know that supply is going to last there and back.
Well, I thought, like, back home, it's illegal and everything, but that doesn't really stop us from getting it. You know what I'm saying? And when I heard where we were going and I heard something about that, I thought it would be kind of the same. But, I mean, these people, they just really don't drink at all, I guess, which explains a lot about their situation.
Sand roll.
But thank you. I would really appreciate that.
I was happy to help.
He's going to end up fighting Flanagan over the last drop. I swear to God, if my gunner has to go dry towards the end here, it's not going to be pleasant.
Lose all his bonus. All right. Mr. Stunt, give me a spot hidden roll, please.
Let's see. I got penalty?
Yes, until the end of the day.
I'll let it go.
All right, something's a little off about Francesco. Unlike you, he does not seem to be suffering from any colds, and your eyes water with a seething hatred at anybody that doesn't have a cold. But he's sort of keeping a distance, maybe, from you, or not behaving in his normal way.
What are you about, Francesco?
Nothing.
No, front and center, boy.
So he comes up, and what you were trying to spot becomes clear is that he has something tucked into his clothes, right? And he's like keeping them like clothes like this and trying to disguise it from you.
Thieving again?
No, Mr. Stanton.
I swear to God I'll drown you in that reservoir if you don't answer me truthfully, boy.
I didn't steal it from anyone, I promise. I promise. God's honest truth. But he has something there.
Hold out my hand.
Show it.
So he reluctantly opens his clothes there, and you see it's an animal, like a kitten, a sand cat kitten. You have them in Morocco, too.
Oh,
They're like a deviation away from a domestic house cat, but
Yeah, I
like a
want to-
wild version.
not like a. Oh man, yeah. They're like African cats that are crossbred with house cats,
Maybe I can.
and so they're slightly more feral, or near feral.
Oh yes, I did.
A Carl or a.
Adorable sand cat kitten. I'll show it to everyone. So
No.
that's what's poking out of his clothes.
Those
there.
things are so adorable. And they're the most successful hunters it's the most successful predator in the world. Something like that.
Yeah, they won't. Well, these ones, because like I said, you have them in Morocco, well adapted to the desert life. This one he has is a kitten. Obviously, everybody knows the immediate problem with a kitten is what are you planning on feeding that boy, right? But also looking at it, you can see why he was trying to keep it. He's like, this is Angelo. Angelo, meet Mr. Stanton.
Angelo? It's your responsibility, Francesco. You feed it, you water it, you see to it, and when it dies under your care, because you'll be the one that digs the hole, and I won't see any tears from you.
Well, I already tried to feed him some chocolate, but he didn't eat it.
It's because it'll kill them. Now get back to whatever it was you were doing.
But Mr. Stanton, what do I
You
feed him?
damn Tego retard. Oh, meat.
Meat. He's been he's left all his tinned meats in his little portion untouched so far, so he trots off to his pack to pry one open. But eventually, you see some figures approaching from the distance. Mr. Stanton, you can make out Mr. Wentworth and Mr. Thompson and their entourage in the head, but coming behind them is the dreadful sign of more unknown people. They didn't come from the village this time. They came more north out of some rocky terrain that is that way. And you probably know enough by now to recognize
The Bedouin.
Yeah. I mean, they don't all dress the same. And of course, they are in Africa as well in certain spots that you've come across them. But yes, he does appear to have a dozen or so Bedouin in tow.
Well,
Each man with a rifle.
Yeah, but I'll head straight for Stanton.
I'll get a peek at them from or like through like a looking glass or the scope on a rifle.
Yeah.
See if Wentworth is appearing distressed.
No, he doesn't. He's still chatting with what you assume is the leader.
Yeah,
And they're on camels as well.
I won't let out the prepare yourselves whistle.
Arm yourself.
Right. But how long do you think about that for?
I'll think about shooting Wentworth.
He's worse than the boy, picking up strays every chance he gets.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wentworth calls out when he's in range to get your attention and speak with you.
Yeah, I'll signal that I hear him and kind of start walking out towards him, maybe.
Yeah, so I'll introduce them, to each other and say, this is Amir of the Rashid tribe.
Yeah.
And then I'll explain, like, they asked us to trade. So we started talking to them, and they're looking for ammunition. And I thought maybe, their reputation being what it is, they might be able to provide us some information on the path ahead that'd be worth some 8mm.
Do you go into like a full quick over explanation?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, basically just,
our ammunition might be better traded to their rivals,
well, that's true.
Mr. Whitworth.
Yeah. Yeah, we just haven't met them yet. So anyway, I thought I'd see what you thought.
Well,
We got a long journey ahead of us.
I do have lots of spare ammunition for the purpose of trading, as well as a couple guns.
You have odds and ends too that
Okay.
you had collected in Cairo that were more.
I'd also see to replenish some of that here too.
So let's kind of refresh your memory. So in the hotel room in Cairo, you had been going over this with Ibrahim, and they had gathered some knowledge about what was known about the Bedouin. And of course, you had this rough tribal map, and they weren't listed in his little tribe. There is a Hashid that could just be an error in whoever drew the map. But he says the Bani Yam are the people he told you he had blood feud with. I don't know if that's popping up for you. You can kind of see them on the edge of the Rub al-Khali there.
The map
just north of Sana'a.
Okay.
Right? And then you had gathered that ammo because you had heard that the Sayar had been trading with the British and were or had been battling with the British, right? And that they might be in need of ammo, and that might get you the passage you require to get through their territory. So the Bani Yam are kind of an unknown at this point as to how they would treat with you, although you do have the warning from Amir that they hate infidels was his word.
Yeah. Right.
So take that for what it is. And as far as what you can see that they have for trade, it's items they fashion themselves that were almost only of interest to like a souvenir type thing, although there are worthwhile knives if you're in need of them, and coffee they have in a relative abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Opium, they have some opium if you guys need that.
Actually, that might not be a bad idea for when our lushes start to go dry.
Right.
Anyway,
Follow me. I'll lead them to the pack camels that have a lot of our odds and ends.
Yeah.
I'd probably be convinced to trade a bit more on a more favorable scale if they had any ways through the Bani Yam.
The Bani Yam, yeah.
The Bani Yam territory,
Okay.
given their hatred for the white man.
Yeah, I'll translate that. I'll tell them, what we're really looking for. Maybe some of the opium, but also, we need a safe route. We need to know safe routes through the Bani Yam lands.
I know their routes well, but it would take me off course of this debt I must have paid.
I'll
What would you offer in return?
I'll have a map.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll unroll it.
Yeah, right. So can you mark it for us, and then you don't have to be taken from your
On the map.
your quest. Yeah. And then I'll tell him, in exchange for that, we'll trade some ammunition.
Okay, so he says, where were you going to begin with? And we can look at that there. You got Marib is where you are. The next bigger thumbtack is the Walker Mariama.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll point to the Walker Mariama.
Okay, so he says you might be tempted to, cut a straight path across the desert, but that will put you into the ways that they travel. If I were you, I would stick more south of the desert.
Along the northern border of...
Right, of the Hadramaut is what it would be marked on your map. And he kind of, he marks out like a low ridge line that once you get to the Walker Mariama runs north. So he's like, stay close to the southern ridge and then travel it up and around.
Can I eyeball about how much time I would lose doing that?
It might add, depending on how, well you travel, 3 to 5 days, perhaps, to take such a route.
So that could add about 3 to 5 days, Wentworth. But I'd be more than willing to risk it if it means we don't have to get in a gunfight with a bunch of tribesmen.
Yeah, right. That's the choice before us. I'd rather take a few more days than get in a firefight.
Ask him about the tribes, the Bedouin beyond the...
Walker Mariama?
Yes.
Sayar.
Amir, who are we likely to encounter past there as we approach, Zamak?
Yeah. Well, there you will get into the Sayar territory, desert, or wolves of the desert. Not just we call them, but all the other tribes. Who knows what a wolf will do.
Much like your, was it Comanche?
It's like right.
They war with everyone.
Yeah, like the Apache. Okay.
But I've never heard that they have a specific dislike of Christians.
They just dislike of everyone.
Just whoever they see is, yeah.
So
but it's not unheard of. There are people that have passed through their territory to tell us tales of them. They have a different way.
So they're using Mausers. Do we have anything that would do that, or would we have to give them guns and ammo?
No, you have the ammo specifically for Mausers, the whatever.
Yeah. I'll reach up and I'll grab, we'll say 2 boxes.
Okay.
What is that? Maybe about 30 rounds each?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I remember how big the box size was.
And I'll put them in his hand.
Okay.
Thank you.
If they have any sort of like hand gesture to go along with a thank you, I'll do that too.
Let him trade.
So, yeah, they walk out like amongst the people, and it's sort of one-on-one trade. So they're going to each individual.
Okay.
You can see one of them sees Francesco's, he has that sandcat kitten out now, and he's trying to feed him like meat. And there's some interest, at least in the smell, but it seems like the kitten is young enough that it might need like milk still.
Okay.
So one of these Rashid tribesmen has a leather skin that he upends for the cat, and he's showing Francisco it's got camel's milk in it, right?
Yeah.
To feed to the cat, who seems to take a liking to it just fine. And let's see what else occurs. Mr. Thompson, Mitchell Brown, is like, so about that whiskey.
When we get back, I'll take him over to my supply there
And fill him up again.
Fill his flask, yeah.
All right, so we've come to the end of our time today, so we will close today's session as the Bedouin spread out and trade amongst the members from your expedition. Thanks for playing today, guys. We'll catch you next time. You can go with those luck increases and skill increases. Yeah.
Alrighty. Yes.
Right.
3. I don't think I've leveled spot hidden this campaign.
This has been a Deathwatch production. Thank you for listening.